Hello ladies and gentlemen, it is Bryson with ITW Firearms. Today I'm on an awesome hike in the Colorado backcountry here in western Colorado with my 4570 Government Henry lever action, as well as my Bandolier 4570, and I'm also carrying my Ruger Vaquero, new Vaquero, in 45 Colt. So today I want to talk about what got me into firearms and my progression of owning firearms thus far in my life. So before I begin telling you about why I got into firearms, think to yourself, what got you into firearms? Was it a family member? Was it your father? Were you in military service? Did you see a movie that you thought firearms were really cool and it made you want to become a firearm owner? Did you do it for protection, for safety? Did you want to get into hunting? Ask yourself, what got you or who got you into firearms? Because when you think about that question, it really makes you think about how impactful good firearm owners maybe if it was somebody who encouraged you to get into owning and buying and collecting firearms, or maybe it was a certain situation. Just feel free to comment that down below. So let's get into it. So let me paint you a picture here. I am probably in kindergarten or earlier when my father first got me into firearms. I can vividly remember the first weapon system that I ever shot was a lever action, not in 4570 Government, but in 22. And it was actually the lever action that my father had purchased when he was a young boy. Mowing lawns, saving up money, and finally making the purchase of a 22 lever gun. So I've been fond of lever guns ever since that point, and this being my first one. Now my father was really big into having firearm safety whenever we were shooting firearms, being around firearms, rifles, shotguns, it doesn't matter. Safety is number one. So I got to learn that foundational principle at a really early age. I remember him teaching me how to hunt, taking me to squirrel hunt with that lever action 22. And we were in a box blind that was built to a guy that used to come hunt on the land, probably about 12, 15 feet in the air, box blind, and it was cold in either the winter months or whenever we were squirrel hunting. And I remember Dad had a whole box of 22 Remington Thunderbolts and, just crap rimfire ammunition. In our woods there where I grew up in Middle Tennessee, we didn't have a whole lot of squirrels running around at the time. And we sat up there, and I had so little, and we sat there with this box of 22s and just chucked the lever gun full, and it was pretty much just a shooting day. It wasn't really much of a hunting day for me. Then fast forward, I can't recall exactly how old I was when I got my first weapon, but my dad got me one of those exchangeable or replaceable barrels that was a 410, and you could swap the barrel into a 22. And my first successful hunt when I was little, was taking a squirrel with that 410. And somewhere in between this whole timeline, when I was real little, I remember a time, and my dad, he could tell you the story probably a lot funnier than I can, but we were out shooting. I was shooting my little gun, and he was shooting a shotgun. He was patterning a 12-gauge shotgun. And so we sat there and we were shooting all day. Shooting my little 22, swapping the barrel out to a 410, or I can't recall if we had the little lever action 22 there as well. But I was pestering him, man, Daddy, I want to shoot that. I want to shoot the big gun. I want to shoot the big gun. Let me shoot the big gun. Well, lo and behold, here, little Bryson, tiny as can be, little ITW Firearms. Dad was pretty fed up with me, and he said, "All right, son, you want to shoot it? Let's shoot it." So he put it on a sandbag, laid it down there. And it was at a shooting table, and I walked up to the big gun at this age, and we sat there, and we're sitting in folding chairs, like little lawn chairs, and I put it up to my shoulder, and as he recounts, he's sitting there watching me, sitting right next to me as I'm about to shoot the big gun, and I pulled the trigger on it, and little ITW Firearms went backward, and so did the gun. And Dad tries to paint a picture. He was like, I caught you and the shotgun like this. You came up, shotgun came up, and I caught you both like this. And you just cried and cried and cried. It hurt your shoulder, went in and cried. But I didn't stop shooting guns. So that's the moral of the story. Anyhow, so moving forward, I got taught an appreciation for firearms, the history behind them, their usage as a tool to provide food, their usage in hunting, and then eventually the usage of firearms in sports, such as sporting clays and trap. So we'll fast forward a couple of years after that. So when I was young, I was really fascinated by the AR platform. Long before I could ever really handle to shoot the 5.56 to the 223, brings me up to age 10. At 10 years old, I'm fascinated with ARs. I've seen them around. I've seen them in videos, and YouTube was just coming around at that time, getting established. But you see the AR, you see the M16s, you see the M4s, and I was like, I want something like that. I want to learn that platform. That way, when I get older, I can own lots and lots and lots of these rifles. And so at 10 years old, I was able to get a Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. So here we are, still in the 22 caliber, but I've got my own little AR platform style 22. And I can't tell you how many just bricks of 22. Back when you could get a brick of 22 for almost nothing, you could pick it up at a hardware store, and I was just shooting that thing left and right as much as I could. A little shooting range set up in our backyard there in Tennessee, and so I used to just go out, and I had the 25 round magazines. I would fill it full, and of course that thing would jam from time to time, but it was just fun to get out there and plink and plink and plink and just shoot, just get the volume, just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and get lots of volume and safe practice behind a weapon system. So after that came, I was very avid into deer hunting at the time, and my first deer hunting rifle was a 243. And I made the mistake of being real young and not getting my shot dialed in on a button buck when I believe I was in the 4th or 5th grade hunting with my dad. It was an inaccurate shot, which led to the deer going all the way down into the hollow, and retrieval was a burden. So here I am. I'm 13 years old, and I need a new rifle for deer hunting. I want to go up in calibers. My buddies are hunting with 30-06, 308, and I'm here with this 243, a great deer rifle by all means, but I wanted something a little bit bigger. And so I started doing ballistics research into what's good, what platforms do I want, and I ended up with a Thompson Center Venture 7mm rim mag, and then I threw a Nikon Pro Staff 3x9 40 on it, and that became a deer hunting rifle, and it did me really well. I had a lot of successful whitetail hunts with it. I remember having my little flip phone and taking pictures, putting it on a rock like this right here, and setting it up right, taking a bullet out and taking pictures of it because I was just really proud of having a 7 mag. When all my other buddies were hunting with 308, 30-06, things of that nature, I just loved that 7 mag. So then we fast forward into Bryson getting a little bit older, and I'm still fascinated by AR-15s and just military surplus rifles in general. My father had a Soviet-made, I believe it was a 1954 or 1953 SKS and 7.62 by 39mm, had the bayonet and everything, and it was a sweet rifle. I had gotten to shoot it several times, and it was gifted to me on my 15th birthday. And I've got an awesome picture of little Bryson holding a Soviet-made SKS with the bayonet out in the position, like, in military parade position. Just like this, and just cheesing as could be. I'll show that picture. It's a pretty good one. So the next year, the following year, I'm wanting to get into building my first AR. I'm fascinated with the AR-15, and I want to build one. I forgot to add that I believe my first AR came before the SKS. It was a Smith & Wesson M&P Sport 2. Great starter AR in my opinion. That AR has served me well. I ended up selling the upper years ago, but I had probably 1,000 rounds of 223 5.56 through that rifle, and it was a great rifle to learn on. The mistake that I made with the M&P Sport 2 is that I didn't shoot it enough. I didn't really learn what I liked in an AR until after I had successfully built one, with a bunch of parts that I didn't need and didn't want. So we go back to when I was building my first AR, got my first lower receiver and parts kits, and I'm throwing everything at it. And I talk about this a little bit in my M1 Garand video, and I'll do a whole video on that AR-15 and just kind of how nostalgic it is to me and the experience that I've had with the pieces on it. But I throw all this money into this fancy AR so I can have the coolest and meanest and most tactical thing possible. But it turned out just to kind of be a flop. It's a great rifle. Unfortunately, at the time, used a lot of Anderson parts, which nothing wrong with the Anderson. Anderson's good by all means. A buddy of mine called me up the other day talking to me about he was looking at getting an Anderson AR, and I said you can't go wrong with that as a starter. I had really good fortune. I've had really good experience with Anderson parts. But I'm not one of those guys who's going to chuck out a whole bunch of money for a Daniel Defense. Today, at least. So after I build this AR, I get into my second military surplus rifle, which is it was a 1943 Mosin Nagant and 7.62 by 54 rimmed, and that thing was just fun. That is an absolute cannon of a rifle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. And their prices have skyrocketed up. I remember hearing, this was before my time, but in the early 2000s at a gun show, you could buy those by the crate, covered in cosmoline. You get them for like 50 or 100 bucks, and now you go to any pawn shop or anywhere to look at one, and they're going to be well into, $500-600. I've seen Mosins now M44 carbine models at $1,000. I don't know that it begs that much, but nonetheless, they're expensive rifles. Now, so I acquired one back then and shot the heck out of it until I got sticky bolt, got tired with it, made a video of it on my other YouTube channel, I'm the Wanderer. I'll link that video. It was me a few years ago talking about my Mosin and my experience with it. And so then so as life progressed, my high school was establishing a trap team. And I had never really been big into shotguns. That's kind of the thing with me and my father, is that he's a shotgun expert and shotgun connoisseur, and I'm into the rifles and single action pistols. Pistols in general, but specifically single actions. Then get into trap shooting. And we had an awesome trap team coach when I was in high school. I mean, he was just really incredible. And my dad had helped really teach me a lot. And I kind of had a knack for trap shooting. And I shot, and my weapon of choice, I believe I started on a Franke over and under, and then I shot with a Browning A5. And then Dad moved me into a Beretta Mark II with, I believe, a 32 or a 34-inch barrel 12 gauge. I mean, it's a single barrel break action, and it is an incredible shotgun. I busted so many clays with that. But here we are again, doubling down on firearm ownership and firearm safety, and just how cool and just how fun and interesting and the community can be behind firearms in general. So as we're moving here, my next pickup was my M1 Garand, and I'll link my video to why I got an M1 Garand, and I can't wait to bring you guys lots of shooting of the M1. It's a 1945 Springfield, May of 45, and I love that rifle. It is the pride and joy of my collection, right up there with this Henry 4570. Following the M1, I've just had a plethora of firearms, bought and sold several. I picked this up when I was going to be a trail guide in Wyoming, and then I got into the single actions. Can't wait to bring you guys a video about my Ruger Vaquero, my Uberti Cattleman 2, and just talk about single actions, why they fascinate me. And and this kind of begs a bigger topic here about why younger people aren't really getting into the older firearms as much. Everybody is still fascinated with ARs. You go to a gun show looking for a lever action or looking for a single action, you're going to have a really tough time. Now, there's going to be some guys there with, original Colt SAAs, $2,000 to $3,000, but your average person's not going to be able to start into that. And there's always those tables full of pistols, and they've got the Ruger 22 single actions. A good place to start, but it's not my taste. Anyhow, we talk about gun shows on a different day, but the question of today's video is what got me into firearms, and it is none other than my father. So I would love to hear from you guys. What got you into firearms? Was it a community? Was it an accident? Were you threatened by something that made you want to get firearm? But what got you into firearms? And feel free to share a little bit about the firearms that you've owned since you first got into it. And then ask yourself, do you know of anybody that you brought into the firearm community, or think of all the people that, if you're a positive, safe, respectful firearm owner, how many people you may have unknowingly got into firearms. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting a little chilly out here today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, and I would really appreciate if you subscribe, and feel free to check out the channel for more firearm videos. Coming to you soon again, ITW Firearms. Thank you very much.